Well, guys, safe to say it was a really damn good week for everybody. Absolutely killing it. I find it ironic that we seem to be in this place where some weeks everybody's freaked out about the Fed and interest rates and all this other stuff, and some weeks the market just does not give a damn, and you end up with this. So, hey, go team go. But what's working for everybody? 8%, 10%, and 14% respectively is very good.
Honestly, I guess just everything. I don't think.
Yeah.
I suppose that's a fair answer.
Shopify is up like 8% on the month. Tesla is up in the double digits for the month and is finally in an all-time positive.
I was going to say, can we just take a moment to appreciate, for like the first time since February or March, Tesla is in the green.
For us, at least.
Yeah, nice. For us, at least. Like, that should be the episode. We should just stop it there. Like, Tesla's in the green. Our work here is done. See you
Tesla's up double digits this month, so it seems to be making a fairly strong push.
Yeah.
Microsoft is doing well. It's up 9%, so it's pretty nice.
I don't have Microsoft anymore.
And then the elephant in the room is Bitcoin is up 42% almost. So that's a large indicator of probably our success.
I am now up all time 24.5%.
Nice.
I'm up 72% on Bitcoin right now, but I think I have a much smaller investment than you.
Oh, I was gonna say all time on Bitcoin, I'm at like 84%. So
yeah,
it's done well. It has done well. Kyle, what about you? I suppose everything probably applies in this scenario as well.
Yeah, it's kind of the same sentiment. Like everything's up, maybe an average of 3%.
Okay.
A couple standouts being, again, Bitcoin, Ethereum's up 26%. Home Depot's at 8%, and Cognizant is at 6.2%.
Wow.
Which is actually paying off.
You've held some of those for a long time, too.
Yeah. Just like, not sure what to do with them, but, I mean, at the same time, they're all doing fairly well.
Yeah, I mean, if they're doing that well, I don't think you have to do anything if you don't want to.
I've actually only got 3 in the red, and it's Callaway, which I picked up fairly recently. Ethereum, but that was just unlucky timing for me. And then TSMC, it's at 8%, but
I feel like you can't sell that though because the entire universe needs chips.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's kind of like I don't know. You'll take the loss until it like blows up.
Yeah,
again.
You know what's good for it. It's just a question of when.
Yeah, exactly. It's the timing.
Hard to believe that in a environment like this they're down, but I suppose if you can't make them fast enough, that hurts you just like it does anybody else.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not much to add on my end of things. Canadian Solar for the month is up 7%, so that's good. I'm still down 34.5 all time, but hey, making progress. Like we said, Tesla's green. For the month, LVMH is doing okay. Chipotle Mexican Grill down 0.1%, so that is currently my worst loss for the month. So, yeah. All time, DraftKings, Ericsson, LVMH, and Chipotle are all down, but outside of Canadian Solar, all of those losses are pretty manageable, so
yeah,
I cannot complain. But we have a very interesting evening of topics to discuss. On the topic of crypto, we'll get right to it. Rumor has it that the first Bitcoin-linked ETF is potentially going to be allowed to be publicly traded on an American exchange. All these years of hype and people going absolutely bonkers, and we might finally be here. So, you know what I have to ask. A, would you buy it? And B, what do we think it does to the price of actual Bitcoin?
I mean, if you're gonna buy cryptocurrency anyways, then yeah, sure, I would probably buy it. I mean, like, I've I've kind of already advocated, I don't like the idea of just spending small amounts on random small coins
Yeah.
because
So the thing to
like,
keep in
I
mind
feel
is
like
it's a futures-based ETF. So it's not the price of it currently. It's essentially like a futures contract. So what do you think the price of the
okay,
coin is
well,
going to be in the future? So
I feel like I would still do it. I mean, I don't know. Like overall, the market is really volatile. I don't know. Maybe it's harder to guess.
I'm just curious how they're going to link it because they say it's a Bitcoin linked ETF. So I don't know what that exposure looks like or how exactly they've decided they're going to link it.
Do they mean like all the coins in it are linked to Bitcoin? Well, because that's
know.
the thing. Like some coins are
They've
forked
been
off
pretty
of other
hush hush
coins.
from what I've seen about all of the things that are in it because it technically hasn't been approved yet. So I'm also very curious to see how many retail investors don't know what a futures contract is and buy it thinking that it's just an ETF with Bitcoin in it and then being sorely disappointed. Not to say that I don't think it can do very well. But futures contracts are not necessarily something that the average person has a lot of experience with, I guess would be my only concern.
Yeah.
But I suppose if you're that into crypto, you probably don't care if you know what a futures contract is or not. You're probably buying it because you believe in it, not because you care what a futures contract is.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very curious. If that gets approved, can you imagine how many other ones are going to be popping up left, right, and center? We could easily go from like 1 to 100 in the span of like 3 weeks.
Nice.
Then I think you start to have concerns about the price stability of the coins and tokens as a whole, because that's a lot of exposure in a very short amount of time.
Mm.
Would they approve that many? I
don't think it's been approved yet.
Well, I mean, would they prove like?
Oh, I doubt they
many?
would approve 100, but if they've approved one, then there's some type of architecture there that presumably could be replicated a reasonable number of times.
Yeah, I guess there's some precedent.
Yeah,
but...
it's just like the law. If there's a precedent, then there you go. But we'll see, I guess. Very, very interested to see what that does. Because to your point, I think there's enough volatility there in other coins that this is one of those things where a rising tide could raise all boats. You know, if people like the exposure to Bitcoin in this linked ETF, then is there market upside for other tokens even if they have nothing to do with it? So I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if there was. I feel like that has to be part of the byproduct to a degree because we've seen it before. Right? All of this stuff with Ripple and the SEC that's been going back and forth. Like, anytime there's good news there, Ripple is not the only one that benefits.
That's true.
So
it's kind of like just someone paving the way for the others.
Yeah, just general acceptance of cryptocurrency in general, I guess, bumps it up.
So then, other question. Would your parents buy this?
I'm going to have to say no on that one.
I doubt it. I actually remember talking to my parents about Bitcoin when I graduated college. And I was telling them about how at the time it had risen a ton, from I don't know, it'd been it gone up a couple thousand, and that was a big, massive increase. Yeah. I feel like my parents are too risk adverse to get into something like that. Honestly, I don't really blame them. It's kind of hard, I feel to convince most people.
I remember back in the day, I tried to convince my mom to let me open a brokerage account my freshman year of high school because I was too young to sign for one on my own. Because I wanted to buy Tesla at IPO price. Do you know what the IPO price of Tesla was?
No, off the top of my head.
$17 a share.
Oh my god.
Well, how many shares did you want to buy?
Also, at the time, I had about $1,000, so I was gonna just throw in there and see what happened.
Yeah.
Would you have kept it all until now?
Probably.
Oh, well, you guys could have had a much nicer house, I guess. That's unlucky.
Yeah, no shit.
You could afford to. Yeah,
I don't even want to do the math.
House. Maybe you wouldn't have a much nicer house. I don't know. You seem like the kind of person who'd be super, like, not like you'd be like fairly frugal. I feel like with your spending.
I am by nature a fairly frugal person. I feel like I would have had to have splurged on like one or two things, but
yeah, that's true.
Outside of that, I would be sitting on the rest of it. So.
The house is a good thing to splurge on, though. It does
yes.
last a long time.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, you spend, like, I work from home. I spend 99% of my time in my house. So.
Yeah. Now you're kind of derailing the conversation, but...
No, yeah. We're totally off the rails.
Yeah.
But...
No, don't think my parents would
no.
buy it, to be honest. I don't know. What about you, Kyle?
It's going to be a big no, because, like...
yeah.
I mean, they just don't understand, really.
No.
So, or, like, they don't understand... Like, it's the fear of not... It's the fear of things you don't understand, I guess.
Yeah.
So they're just like, yeah, that's a no for me. I'm going to stick with what I know.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious to see where this goes. I think this could be the start of something very big, but time will tell. Time will tell. I did see in the news, though, that we need to go back to a topic that we covered probably about a month or two ago when we discussed Virgin Galactic.
Ooh.
Because the FAA concluded their investigation and actually found no fault. They were like, hey, we get it, it's cool, don't worry about it. The problem is that Virgin Galactic recently announced that they're pushing back all of their commercial space flights until 2022.
Mm.
Now, it's not that far away, but the stock cratered anyway. Thus, further illustrating our point, this is... Like, investing in Bitcoin, I feel like, is playing with fire to a certain degree. This, I don't think, is really that different at this point. Like,
I don't know.
They don't have a product for sale at this point. It's all of it is literally hype based off of one flight that they live streamed like a month ago. And the promise of, hey, next year you can do this. Like, I get that you have pre-sales. I get that people want to do it. But
I do feel like it's slightly different because, like,
it has to be overvalued at this point.
Well, it's definitely overvalued because none of the companies, like you said, provide a product that's worth the price that people are, like, speculating about or asking for. But the thing is, like, long term, like, I mean, it's like highly likely long term in the course of humanity's path that commercial space anything is going to be a thing.
True.
Right?
That is fair.
Like, that's pretty much a guarantee, as opposed to Bitcoin. Like, the long-term acceptance of Bitcoin still very up in the air. Like, we could eventually just reject it and it could be worth $0, and that it's like just something that's in the history books people talk about. Like,
that's
our
true.
First attempt at a digital currency was was a complete failure, and, like, blah blah blah, and we hashed it out in the year 3000 and figured it out or whatever. But we don't know that. But, like, commercial spaceflight, definitely going to be a thing eventually. Like, if people want to really colonize other planets, people really want to do, like, all this stuff, like, gonna need to allow for that. So but I think the other thing is that there is an inherent risk that one of these companies will screw up, and the screw up will be catastrophic for we were talking about it before. When a company screws up, it's going to be like Challenger level, and it's going to be catastrophic, and you're not going to be able, like, they're not going to be able to recover from.
No. Like,
that company will just fold immediately.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe we're wrong, and, like, some company won't be able to survive that. But in our minds, like, which is what the risk is, right? You guess wrong. You put an investment in a company, and it dies.
Yeah.
But I think people are thinking because it's a guarantee that some of these companies hit. I mean, they could be wrong. All three of these companies could flame out, and some other company is the one that survives, that starts like, within the next couple of decades or whatever, as long as they don't miss out on the true wave, whatever. But I do think it's like a different situation, because there is like some sort of feeling that like, like the idea is definitely going to work. So probably it's one of these three companies, because these three companies are first.
Yeah.
Just, I hope I don't pick the company that flames out.
Yeah. So would you buy the dip? If you're holding this for 20 years, would you buy the dip?
What did it dip to? I mean, what did it start at again? It started at something really high.
I'll pull up the chart, and we can walk through the scenario here. Let's see. Okay, so currently it is at $19.67. It started the week at $23.53.
Oh.
So it's down 15.75% in a week. I guess, sorry, it was at 23.36 on the 12th. And then now it's down to 19.67. So in like the last 8 days.
What was their original price?
Their IPO price?
Yeah.
Great question. Let's look.
I thought it was like 30, 40, something like that.
It started the year up that high. So their IPO price...
$10? Not.
Yeah, it was $10.
So now it's $20.
Well, yeah. So I mean, technically it has doubled. But if you bought at the peak, you are thoroughly screwed.
Yeah.
So the peak was $50-something.
The peak was like $58.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like if the price drops enough, like maybe you could throw some money at it just to be like, just in case this goes up. It's kind of like
Kyle's point, right? Like, over the course of human history that space travel is probably going to be a thing to some degree.
Yeah.
So if you have 25 or 30 years to just wait and see what happens, assuming it survives whatever catastrophic growing pains this industry probably is going to have to deal with, I mean, I don't know how you get a hell of a lot lower than $19.
Yeah, I will admit, below I think we talked about this before, and I think $10 to $20 was the zone where we started saying, like, at that point, it's not a lot to say, like, hey, I'm just buying X shares. Like,
it's a speculative gamble, of course.
Yeah,
but
to your Tesla play, your Tesla opened at $17 or whatever. Yep. Like, yes, Tesla was kind of crazy at the time.
Yeah,
but $17 is not expensive. Like,
no.
I spent $60 on a video game when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Easy, so that's 3 shares right there.
Yep.
Yeah, I figure like it's maybe I'd throw some money at it just to say like, or just to like have some security and like potential in the future, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's an investment out of like confidence in the company. It's more just like this is an opportunity. Yeah.
If you have your account. If you have your investment account that's for like a long term, I want to grow my money long term. I have my retirement fund that's already maxed out.
Yeah.
My long term investment fund, whatever. You need to like another account that's like, this money is on fire.
Yeah.
When I put it into this account, this money is essentially on fire.
Yeah.
And I am just like, like this is where you invest for GME or where you invest in, I guess, Virgin Galactic at $20 or
this money, once you put it in this account, does not exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It only exists if it
Yeah.
goes up and makes you fantastically wealthy. Otherwise, it does not exist.
You're not allowed to be sad about any red numbers. in
No.
this account.
You are not. So, thorough consensus that this may be a dip worth buying if you're willing to wait.
Yeah.
Range Rover not included, though.
Oh, that's right.
Remember that. Range Rover is only an option if you actually fly on the rocket.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos needs to get some kind of souvenir for his spaceflight people.
Just give
Send
people
Captain
Well,
Kirk
it's
to
not a
space and
souvenir,
then
right? You
say,
have to pay for the
"Thanks for
special
coming."
ticket. You have to pay for
True.
the special ticket, though, still, right? To get the Range Rover. It's not like it's just free.
No. You are definitely paying extra.
Yeah.
And you're paying for the actual land.
Amazon, yeah. Amazon
so.
should give you something for free.
Just give fucking Amazon stuff.
Or Blue Orange. Yeah, one free share.
Yeah.
Hey, that might be worth a lot, depending on how Blue Origin works
Yeah.
out.
That might be too risky.
They're still private.
Yeah.
No Blue Origin shares for you yet.
Yeah.
On the topic of Jeff Bezos, though, that's actually a beautiful segue. I could not have orchestrated that any better, and it was completely unintentional. Reports are coming out that he may have lied to Congress.
Ooh.
Yeah,
That's
not a good
good.
look.
That's
Basically, it's piggybacking off of testimony earlier this year from an investigation by Reuters, or however the hell you say that.
good. Oh, yeah.
Saying that they copied products and rigged the Amazon store search results in India to boost sales of Amazon-branded product. At the time, Amazon strongly denied the allegations. And a spokesperson said, Amazon and its executives did not mislead the committee, and we have denied and sought to correct the record on the inaccurate media articles in question. Now, fast forward to this week. And they said, quote, credible reporting by Reuters and recent articles in other news outlets directly contradict the sworn testimony and representations of Amazon's top executives, including former CEO Jeff Bezos. So, at best, they've lied to Congress, potentially. At worst, they did it on purpose to avoid a criminal federal probe. So, not a good look. But of course, the million-dollar question for the purposes of this competition: does the share price take a hit? And if the share price does or does not take a hit from this, what does this do to the murmurings that the U.S. government should or should not do something about breaking up monopolistic big tech?
I feel like if they do take a hit, it's minuscule
Okay.
and it's like probably negligible. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of a big one, but I feel like I don't know.
I don't know necessarily if it'll be small, but I definitely feel like they will recover. Like whatever the size of the recession is, like I feel like they'll just get it all back eventually. So
Yeah,
I feel
I mean,
like-
if Facebook...
if I'm an investor and
Yeah.
I wake up and I see the Amazon is down for like a couple months, you're like, okay. Then I think I'm sure by the end of the year, like whatever.
Yeah.
As the second part of your question, I don't know. Does that convince them? Like, hey, maybe nothing stops the Amazon bust right now. But I mean, then I guess what do you start doing to break that up? I don't know how you're gonna get that to pass through too. It's not like big tech isn't putting a bunch of money also in politics. So
No, they definitely not. Which is why I honestly think that that's not going to go anywhere. I mean, if we can't even pass anything right now because Cole owns West Virginia, we sure as hell aren't going to pass anything that has to do with big tech with the amount of money that they put into anything.
it's hard.
it just time and again, it baffles me that these tech executives go to Congress. Like you saw it with Mark Zuckerberg after the 2016 election. He's completely... To me, he seemed unprepared. He was very vague and evasive in his answers. Obviously, a lot of people thought he was a robot. Like, how is it that every time one of these people ends up in front of Congress, something bad happens? Or they intentionally or inadvertently create more problems for themselves than if they just told the damn truth? I don't know. I have questions as to how they thought that was a good idea. But
well, if you think about it, computer people are always frustrated with non-computer people because they never know how to work a computer. But
true. And to be fair, most of the time they get asked some really, really dumb questions by senators who don't know how the internet works.
Well, I'm not
fair.
saying that. I'm just saying maybe the inverse is also true. Computer people just don't know. Those type of computer people just don't know how to lie properly. I mean, let's be honest. Like,
They don't know how to lie properly.
Like, let's be honest. Like, I'm sure they're not the first people to have attempted to lie in front of Congress before.
No, certainly not.
So, I mean, like, they just, like, when you reply to someone over a message or an email or something, you have time to compose what you're going to say, to think about it, and write it out, and do it. Like, you're writing it, essentially, before sending it. Someone asks you a question and expects you to answer it, they either sit there and do all the thinking in front of everyone, which looks really awkward and stupid, or they try to reply and they don't know how to quickly, in their RAM, does not have the appropriate response loaded. So they start stumbling over what they're trying to say, or they say the wrong thing or something that's just obviously going to cause problems if they had thought it through. And then when they get caught later, they're like, yeah. I'm not sure. Also, I just think, like, I think a lot of people are kind of just ballsy who are in those positions of power. They're just like, they're kind of just brazen about their acts, and they're willing to do the minimal effort of covering it up and like, stop me.
Yeah,
it hasn't really like not worked out for them in life. That's why they're in those positions.
Mm-hmm. Every one of them just makes me wonder. Kyle, any thoughts?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess I never considered like the brazenness of being.
No.
I mean, but also like, I get maybe do they do it on purpose? Do they do like I mean, I don't know if
I'm sure some of it is calculated. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I consider
there's lying,
like
there's telling the truth, and there's a hell of a lot in between, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's where they start to justify some of their own things, because in their mind, I'm not lying. I'm just, maybe you've left out a small piece of information.
Yeah, I just didn't tell you the full truth.
You choose to have a preferential framing of the words that you're saying instead of.
Exactly.
You're trying to spin it a little bit.
Yeah, and then I guess also like, I don't know. I mean, maybe they're playing like a 4D game. Like they do like a small lie, and then it gives them some publicity, right?
Yep.
And then it comes back into the court, and they're like, we're going back on this case, and then it comes up in the news again, and like, oh, and then like, oh, maybe we did something wrong, right? But it's like, you got caught on something minor, and then we're like, hey, guess what? We were just released our big plan to fix this thing that we've been,
So you're subscribing to the all publicity is good publicity.
I mean, yeah, possibly.
I'm sure there are people who still believe that.
Yeah,
I'm not one of them, but
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess like if they can like map. I mean, this is very conspiracy theorist, but like if they could map it to where like the stock takes a minor hit, right, and then they come back out with something like they get more publicity, and then or they release something that's like, hey, we did something good, then like.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they can blow it like balloon the stock again. I don't know.
Active market manipulation.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, speaking of markets, manipulation, and ownership, I have some brand new, hot off the press, but very depressing statistics for you.
Mm.
Looking at the distribution of stock market and capital gains during the pandemic, the wealthiest 10% of American households now own what percentage of all U.S. stock? Give me a guess.
God, that's scary.
I've obviously given you a massive hint when I said it was depressing, so you know the number is fairly large.
Is it over 50%?
98%. Oh,
Kyle says 98. What do you say?
I'm assuming some massive number, to be honest.
Okay. I feel like I'm super low compared. I was like, is it
I might be
over
really wrong.
50%?
All right,
It's
so we
gotta
got
be
98 and we got a 50. 89.
Holy
89% of all
Wow.
U.S. stock is owned by the wealthiest 10% of American households.
Well, I mean, if I think about it, like, even among the middle class, like, not everyone owns stock,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not
And
necessarily that surprising.
You
It's
consider
just that
how
when
much.
you put it in such stark terms,
Yeah.
like, damn.
Yeah. Not great.
No. The top 1% gained more than $8.5 trillion during the pandemic. Bottom 90%, which owns the remaining 11% of stocks, added $1.2 trillion in total. Yeah. Pretty bad.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. A little bit.
A little bit. Well, and the reason that I think this is so interesting is because back when we first started doing these, obviously Wall Street Bets and the rise of the retail investor was a major narrative and something that everyone was following. I mean, this article essentially says that all of that is shit, and it doesn't mean anything. It's like, retail investors are fitting into that bottom 90% that own 11% of all stocks. So I think if anything for me, like, yes, retail investors are still an interesting trend to follow. But I feel like this kind of disarms them a little bit because it fairly clearly outlines how little power they have over anything. Obviously, taking nothing away from what they did to GameStop and AMC, like, there's power in that way, yes, very tangibly. But market-wide as a whole, it's not like this massive trend of retail investors is going to do any damage to anything, comparatively speaking. Like, I just don't buy it anymore. Like, I don't see mathematically how that's possible.
Yeah, it's like little wins can be had, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know, affecting huge change is going to take a lot of something.
Yep. Pretty wild. Kyle, I know you were following Wall Street Bets pretty avidly at the beginning. Not surprising?
I don't know. Yeah, probably not surprising. I think Wall Street Bets is fairly aware of the fact that whales exist.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's like something that they actively track too. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's surprising that they own 90% basically of all stock in the world. Just not when you actually consider like how many people you know that actually own stock, and then how many shares total do you think they actually own? Like, of all of those companies, like what percentage of those companies do you think they actually own?
Yep.
Like, gotta be pretty low. Like, you know, the highest one might be the one they work for.
Probably.
You know, they get options from work. You know,
Yep.
Might actually own a calculatable percentage of the company.
Yeah.
Besides that, it's like,
So then what does this mean for the future of the retail investor? Do you think that something like what happened at GameStop is possible again? Or was that an aberration?
Probably. I mean, I don't know. You would think that the people who set themselves up for that would be more careful to avoid it. But at the same time, the whole way they set themselves up for it made them a lot of money. So
Yeah.
leads me to believe that it probably could happen again. They're probably willing to let the risk ride, you know, just as long as they don't get caught. Maybe they'll try to be more careful about it. But there are probably still opportunities. I mean, like you said, like retail investors, if you were invested in the market, you didn't make money. Like the market doesn't care who's investing in it for them to get their money.
Yep.
And to be fair, like the people who, you know, design the market, for lack of a better word, to make money, they don't care if other people happen to make money too, as long as they make 90% of it, to your point.
Correct.
So, I mean, I don't think the retail investor is like unable to, like, you know, participate, but certainly makes you feel like, well, yes, it's really the confidence of other people that drives the market, not really the confidence of me.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm confident in something, most likely it should be pretty good at this point, because like the only reason the public is confident in it is probably because some of these whales are confident in it, you know?
Yeah. It's like the little fish that swim alongside of the sharks and like eat the things that come out of their gills.
Yeah. Shark doesn't care.
No. Pretty crazy. The same article said that the average Robinhood account is about $4,500.
Jeez.
How many Robinhood accounts are still open? Are they not
Over
tanked?
22 million.
All right, so they haven't lost their entire user base by any means.
No, they still have a very large user base. At $4,500 a pop, that's certainly not bad. But to your point, right? If you had an entire $4,500 in Tesla at $17, yes, that's a substantial gain, but compared to somebody who put a couple million into it, because that's like 1/10 of 1% of their entire portfolio, like the gains are not even comparable.
Yeah, or even just someone who dropped 100,000 into it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
100,000 is
comparable.
very easy to invest for some of those big whales. Like that's like a bet.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
literal bet.
it's an accounting error. Somebody
they make
forgot
on
to move
their-
a decimal point. Like,
Like, so,
that's the
might
type
have-
of financial situation we're talking about here.
yeah, they might have literally bet that over golf at some point.
Yeah,
Like,
they may have. It's very possible.
like so.
They may have bottles
know.
of wine in their wine cooler or wine cellar that are worth more than that.
Yeah, so, you know, like, and then that would have made them a bunch of money right there, you know? And I'm sure, like, halfway, you know, like, I mean, it's not like they wouldn't have doubled down and invested more once they saw it booming. Like, so, you know, to our point, you could have invested 3 months ago, you know, and you would have made you would have made a ton of money back because you would have bought at a dip since it, you know, comparative to the start of the year. So, yeah. They absorb losses easily.
They do.
And get to reap larger gains.
Yep.
It's the whole point. Having an insulating layer of cash around me.
So then is there anything that can be done about systemic inequality of, like, participation in the securities market?
No.
Is it just doomed to always be this?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. To be honest, like, if you think about it, like, you can't invest in the market unless you have extra money.
Correct.
Right? And you don't get shares for free unless you start the company.
Yep.
No one with no money is doing that. Okay, well, I mean, you hear about it happening, right? Like people making their own company and starting it up and it becoming a set. But like that's a feel good story, all right? Like most of the companies that try that, they don't survive. That's why you don't hear about them. So like, you know, you either start your own company or you get a job at a company that offers options. Those are white collar jobs, so you're probably on your way to not be, you know, like to not having barriers of financial entry.
Yep.
That's your position. That's usually how that works. So, yeah, I think the way the system is designed, how do you give poor people stock? Like, do you just give them free stock? Like, how does that work? No,
You can't. Well, and that's why I came back to this concept that we talked about last week when we were talking about Evergrande over in China. I feel like the only mathematically possible way to give economically disenfranchised groups stock ownership is for the government to buy parts of those types of companies. And then, as a result, the American taxpayer is the shareholder. Now, understandably, that's very complicated, and like government ownership of public or private enterprises. We don't need to get into that.
Well, so as part of your tax refund, you get.
But if you think about the way the American tax code works, who pays the most in taxes as a percentage of what they make? Regular people, right?
Regular people, yeah.
People, the middle class and the lower class pay way more in taxes as a percentage of what they bring home than the wealthy do. So, wouldn't that also make it so that more of them would be, again, painting in broad strokes and percentages here, because they pay more taxes as a percentage of their income? Wouldn't that also make them more of an owner of whatever company the U.S. government bought and redistributed to the American taxpayer?
I don't know. Some people will argue you should get back what you put in. Right? Like,
yes, I mean that's obviously the counter argument. If you put in 100,000, you expect to get 100,000 back.
Well, I mean, like, you expect to get whatever $100,000 would have bought you out of the American government or American taxpayer ETF, I guess. But I mean, that's kind of interesting. Like, it would give away.
I feel like mathematically, there has to be other options, but to your point, you can't give away stuff for free, and so there's not a lot of other directions you could go.
Who picks what they buy though and stuff, like,
Yeah,
and
like
they buy something bad.
It's easy in theory to say that. The practice of what that would actually entail is infinitely complicated, and it's probably never going to happen.
Can you imagine the conflict of interest of the government buying shares of a company?
Honestly, would it be any worse than it is now?
Well, no, like that. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean it's the same, but like that's what I'm saying. Like, it would just be like company gets bought by the government, goes bankrupt, fails or whatever, it needs to be bought out. It's like we can't not buy them out, like, right? Like, it's actually like it literally costs the entire country money if you do not bail these people out. Like, quite literally, like every single taxpayer loses here. Like, there's no way you could, like, it's not just a conflict of interest in the kind of like, scummy, like, like, that senator gets money from that, whatever, that lobby group. It's like, it's literally a conflict of interest of like, hey, on my behalf, I own stock in this company. Like, my mom owns stock in this company. My grandma, who doesn't know what stock is, owns stock in this company. like, you gotta bail them out, bro. Like, I don't even like them, but you gotta bail them out.
Yeah.
So
we seem to be really good at making things that are very overly complicated.
I mean, that's what finance is, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, that's
a lot of complicated crap.
But,
everyone wants to be sure that they make their money, so we have to make all these complicated agreements to make sure that happens.
Yep.
Even though the whole principle of making money is that someone else had to lose money. Somewhere.
It's a transaction, yes. Somebody has less money so that you can have more.
Yeah. I mean, they could get something out of it. Like, that's what the idea is supposed to be.
It's supposed to be an exchange of value. Correct.
Yeah, but when you talk about the theoretical value of companies, and that's what you're paying money for, then it becomes kind of iffy. Because, that might never arrive. And then.
What you think something is worth and what it is actually worth can be two very different things. Well, on that very depressing note, any closing thoughts from anybody? Anybody going to cash anything out since they're absolutely crushing it this week?
I don't know. Do you think you should cash out on Bitcoin while it's above 60,000? That is kind of Like, is this a plateau? You know, or not a plateau? Is this a floor?
Yeah, it's a point of resistance. Is it going to be the floor or is it going to be the ceiling? I'm honestly going to keep it because I'm more optimistic about the long-term prospects than I am concerned about any short-term consequences. With that said, I fully expect it to go down if the news about this crypto-linked ETF is not positive. Then I would expect it to go down a little bit there, but
You're not
I'm gonna keep it,
anticipating
see what
just
happens.
a large sell off now that it's above. Well, I guess it's been up there for like 2 days now, according to the chart. So
Yeah.
I guess the immediate sell off would have already happened. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to hold it and see what happens, but I may live to regret that. What about you guys?
I don't know. I feel like it always falls back down to like, what do I get rid of and what do I replace it with?
Yep.
But I got a couple of things that are looking pretty good where I could like possibly just lock in some gains. Like Honeywell is up all time 11% for me right now. So that might be something good to like
Not
to
bad
lock
at
in.
all.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm considering maybe selling. I think
You
you're
gonna
right
sell
long
it?
term. Well, I think you're right long term, or at least for the purpose of the end of the year.
Yeah.
It will go higher. But I do also think that at some point it will dip.
Yep.
Like 10,000, 15, maybe even 15,000. I don't know. Something
Okay.
like small.
That's
Small
a fairly
dip.
substantial correction.
Well, I think it will dip like a little bit, but then like bounce back within a couple weeks. I feel like,
Okay.
and I'm hoping what happened is maybe you sell now and then you could buy it back.
Ah.
But of course,
Buy it back
You
at a
always-
discount.
you could always miss out, and it goes up to 80,000, and then
It could.
and I'm not feeling so hot, so I'm not sure. Like to Kyle's point, I don't know what I would buy with my money instead, anyways. So.
What are you at all time?
Am I positive now? I might be
I was
positive.
going to say,
now.
I feel like you have to be close now that you've made back all of your GameStop money.
I am at $1,000 in the green.
Ooh,
We are
yes.
positive.
Big.
Big. I made up almost almost $100,000 loss. Start of the year. It was like 87,000.
All right.
Huge recovery.
It was
Wow.
a moral pick. Fake money. Didn't
Nice.
Jeez. Well, keep us posted. I'm very curious to see how you decide to handle that.
Yeah, we'll see. I guess I could just sell. I think the problem is that with the app, I think you just close your position. I don't think there's a way to be like close some of my position. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's all
mean,
or nothing. I think.
Technically, what you could do is you could close it, immediately buy back like less.
You could buy, you buy half of it or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, but
You
like
could.
it does it in installments. That's the other thing about this. It's like maybe that makes it more of a game to have rules like that, I guess. But yeah, I'll have to figure it out.
Well, I'm curious to see how it goes. Alrighty,
We'll
guys.
go.
Good luck with the rest of the week, and we'll see you next time for what will be the final full week of October.
Oof. Already there.
Already there. When we talk next, you'll have 1 week left to try to not finish in last.
Yeah, definitely.
This month, I'm very curious to see how that goes, too, because we're fairly close together, and everybody is very, very high.
Yeah, that's true. So everyone's got a little bit of potential.
Lots of potential. Nothing but untapped potential.
A lot
Okay,
of
that
potential to go
might
down,
be
too.
overselling it a little bit. But good luck, guys. Until next time.
Yeah, for sure.
Later.